Welcome, Jordan here. Today we're going to be going deep into aligning yourself with the flow of life that is already happening so things can start to feel more effortless. You can start to tap into what is already happening around you rather than trying to control it or force things. I'm not talking about flow in terms of flow state or productivity or focus. And I'm not talking about removing life's challenges in the hopes that everything goes away and we're living in comfort for the rest of our lives. What I'm talking about is tapping into a universal flow that is already here so that you can achieve this sense of ease and this sense of momentum that does not feel like you are creating this urgency or effort or you're driving things forward. What's really going on here is we have been obsessed for a very, very long time as human beings with control. We want to control everything. And this is not because we're bad people. It's not because there's anything wrong with you and I. It's simply because when we grow up in a world that does not feel safe to us, whether that's in our own personal environment or just the world in general, we've been very disconnected for a very, very long time. And we're coming back into unity slowly but surely, even though it may not look like that. That sense of separation that we experience in this life creates this sense of feeling not safe in the world. So, therefore, we try to control everything in order to feel safe. So, what we're looking at here is how to slowly just let go of that so we can actually lean in and start to trust the world in a deeper way. Because when we trust the world, we start to align ourselves with what is already happening for us rather than trying to control it or force it ourselves. How this force and control that we're talking about here can show up is really this sense of urgency where we feel like we need to be the ones to do everything and the whole world is on our shoulders. And what this does, it starts to create friction and challenges and resistance in our life that just doesn't need to be there. An example of this is when you are putting in a lot of effort in your business to have people know who you are and have people buy from you or work with you or whatever the case is. You're putting in a lot of effort and you feel like you're moving at a rapid pace, but results just don't really match the effort that you're putting in. Or even you could look at it through the lens of relationships, where you're looking to get into a relationship and you're putting a lot of effort into that. But it seems to be that the other person just keeps pushing further and further away. There's a sense here that I'm understanding more and more that the less that we try, the more that we magnetize. And that's really what we're talking about when it comes to this flow. The flow is always happening. It's like a river that's constantly flowing. But when we see a river, we don't try to put our hands in and direct it in a new way. We don't try to control the flow because the flow is already happening. We just enjoy the flow. Maybe we take a swim. Maybe we get in a boat, but we don't disrupt the flow. We just align ourselves with it. But why do we do the opposite in life? Well, it comes back to this idea of control. So, what does it mean to start to let go of control? Because you may be thinking to yourself, well, I have to have control over things. I have to be able to move things forward in my life. Isn't that up to me? And the answer, how I would say it, is yes and no. There's always some truth in the middle. What I've come to understand, not saying that this is the inevitable truth, this is what's the truth for me. We're in this kind of co creation. There's us, and we are the creators of our reality, our personal reality. But then there's also a bigger, larger creator force or existence that is within everything that we see around us. I didn't create the earth, I didn't create the universe, but something did. And therefore, we're infinitely connected to that because we come from that, but we're also a creator of our own personal reality. So there's a co creation happening. It's like an ebb and a flow, right? So this is why it's not about not doing anything at all. But there's a very fine line between not doing anything and doing enough to do your part in the co creation and to allow the rest to be taken care of. Now, what does that require? It requires to let go of this control and the belief that it's all up to you or it's all up to me. It's a deeper level of trust. And this has been such a journey for me over the last year or so. I remember back in early 2025, I stopped taking on clients for my business. I stopped coaching inside different communities where there was hundreds of clients that I was supporting in different ways for other people. And I stopped that flow. I felt like this was just the time for me to go and spend some time by myself and to lean in to get clear what it is that I wanted to do next and where I wanted to go. And I started to go through these experiences where I was shown by the world in many different ways through relationships and people and experiences that I was gripping onto control or the illusion of it in so many different ways. When I let go of all of the different income sources that I had, my bank account hit zero after a couple of months of going through savings. I wasn't expecting that or anticipating that, but it started to show me where I was gripping onto control. And the lesson and the journey that I was going through was showing me that even though I may not have the financial resources in which I did previously, I'm still supported in different ways. I started to see that random things would just pop up in my life. I would get a deal on something that was just unheard of, like a place to live. And the deal was that I didn't have to pay straight away, or there was something else where I could do a split. Now, these things may seem like normal things in common, but they started to show up in very helpful ways that showed me that things were working out for me, even though I had this kind of financial burden, you could say, on my shoulders. It felt like I was failing. It felt like I was going in the wrong direction. But what I uncovered throughout that entire journey was this sense of trust, this sense of surrender that no matter what is in my bank account, I am supported. And not only did I just think that, I felt it because I could experience it in real time. Didn't mean that it wasn't stressful. It didn't mean that I don't have goals and aspirations to change that, but I needed to experience that to bring myself back into a sense of certainty that regardless of what's happening around me, regardless of what results I'm experiencing, regardless of what I have achieved, I'm still a human being. And I still have the capacity to hold a level of certainty and hold a level of calmness, regardless of what's going on around me. My entire identity wasn't based on what I produced, it was based on me and my inherent value as a human being, which is a journey for many men because a lot of the time our output and our level of production, the things we achieve, is what gives us a sense of self worth. But who are you with none of those things? That's what life was asking me in those times. So I needed to experience that to come out the other side. And there was so many blessings and miracles that just happened along the way. A client would start to come in at the perfect time that would give me enough to be able to move forward, to take a trip, to go to where I went to at the end of the year, which was New Zealand, where I ended up living in an unfurnished cottage for a long time and just connecting with nature and grounding and going inwards within myself to let go of many, many things. There's too many things here to talk about, but there was just many aspects of that. So there was things showing up at the right time throughout that entire journey. The reason I'm sharing this is because this taught me that there is a flow that is happening. But previous to that, I wasn't aware of this flow. I thought I was the one creating all of it. I thought I was the one that had to carry everything. I thought I was the one that had to force an effort and move things forward. And if I believe that to be true, then it's almost like the world says, hey man, go ahead. You carry everything then. And eventually you just get to the point where you're like, this is too much. It's like too heavy. It's like I don't, why are things so difficult? Why is there all this resistance? Why do things feel so challenging? Because we're going against the flow. We're not tapping into our ability to co-create. This sense of ease is not something that is an ideal where we just sit back and do nothing. This sense of ease comes from not extending excess amount of effort where it's not necessary, right? Like think about having an online business, for example, right? You may have one yourself. If you don't, just imagine this for a moment. You work a couple of hours a day, and those couple of hours a day produce results because you're doing what you love, you're following your joy, you're working with great people, you're making some sales. Things are good, things are clicking for you. And in the rest of the day, what do you do? Like, if you have all of this free time, which everybody seems to crave and to love, what would you do in the time? Because this is where, for me specifically, I didn't have the answer to that question for a long time. So I just filled that time with work. So even though I went off to create this time freedom for myself to work a couple of hours a day, I was still working 16 hours a day, not by choice, but just by unconscious pattern of, well, there's just time here in the day. So I'm just going to fill it with work. Why? Because I didn't trust life. I didn't trust that if I wasn't working, I wouldn't receive anything. I couldn't trust that if I was to actually trust myself enough to just relax or to take some space or to go do something fun or to do things that actually would bring me joy, I didn't trust that that would produce anything. So therefore I had to be in control. I had to be working all the time to make sure that I'm moving things forward. I was buying into the illusion that it's all up to me. What did that create? Created burnout. I was driven by this urgency, this emotion of just fear underneath all of it. So to let that go, it was deeply uncomfortable. That season that I just shared with you there was part of that. It was many components. And all of it was letting go of that control. So what really does this start to bring into our lives as we let go of this more and more? Well, we begin to trust life more. It doesn't mean that it's easy. It's actually, dare I say it, it's actually more challenging in the beginning because what you're going through is just this dismantling of what you thought life was, this letting go of what you thought you had to do in the world. And there's a sense of grief because if you produce results that way, that becomes part of your identity. It becomes part of who you are. I am the one who does this. I'm the one who drives things forward. I'm the one who uses my effort and willpower to be able to move things. That gives you a sense of self worth, a sense of this is who I am. And that's beautiful. We're not saying that that's wrong. But when you go through this and you actually allow things to be a little bit easier and you start to tap into this a little bit more, you start to realize, wow, why was I putting in so much effort, so much excess energy, so much time, so much of my life was taken up by this when I didn't have to? And that's a beautiful moment, but also a moment of grief. Because in that moment of realization, you're sitting there and you're like, wow, this could have been different the entire time. And this part of me is no longer part of this next chapter. So there's a sense of grief around that. So what we're getting at here is this letting go of being the one who carries everything on your shoulders. To tap into more of this flow is letting go of control. It's trust and surrender. But surrender is not passive. Surrender is trust in motion. Because the other side of this, that balance in between the two, is that as you slow down, as you be more intentional about where you spend your time and energy and what to focus on, as you spend more time in resting or doing other things that are fun, that you just feel drawn towards, you'll naturally get a spark to go do something. And that may be to reach out to a person, to create a video, to launch something, to build an offer, like whatever the case is. There's going to be something that will inevitably come up for you to do. And then that's where all of the energy goes. That's where all of the energy goes because that's where the spark led you. So then you're there and you're doing it. And then you do that until it doesn't bring that spark kind of dies out, you know? And then it's like back into stillness again or back into doing something else. Instead of just thinking that you wake up at 9 and therefore from 9 to 10, you are working, you're in grind mode, you're in hustle mode because that's just what people do. It's just not the case. If you allow it to be different, it can be. So, how do we really go about integrating this into our life? Well, it starts with becoming aware of what's driving us. What is the energy and emotion underneath that is moving things forward? Is it urgency? Is it fear? Is there a case of me stepping away from things and I feel guilty about that? Then there's guilt driving my actions. Just being mindful of these different things, and we're just using emotional labels to put some tangibility to it. But what's driving us under the surface? That awareness in itself starts to open up the pathways to see the patterns that are playing out in our life, right? An example of a pattern is when I feel a sense of guilt for not working, I not only don't enjoy the present moment of whatever it is I'm doing, but I'll actually start thinking about work and I'll actually start solving problems in my mind, then maybe even going on my phone or doing whatever I need to do to get rid of that feeling of guilt. That's in itself a pattern. So, what do you do in those moments with a pattern like that? Well, you first of all see it for what it is, and you do usually do the opposite, a different choice. I'm actually going to sit with this feeling right now. Oh, I'm becoming aware that I'm now in fear right now. I'm afraid that if I don't do something right now, everything's going to fall apart. Great. That's where the growth is. The growth is actually staying with that, to see through it and to become okay with that sense of uncertainty. Because all it is this old pattern playing out that used to be part of who you are, but you're now letting go of that. So that's the beginning stages of this. And then over time, you start to change your behavior with new choices. But along the way, there's a lot of releasing. What we're dealing with here is identity, behavior, patterns. These things are driven by energy and emotion. Oftentimes, that energy and emotion is something that has been suppressed or something that hasn't been fully felt, otherwise, it wouldn't be there. So, therefore, we can then go and explore what it means to really release those things. For me, meditation and breath work and other tools have been very, very helpful around that. And if you want support on that, feel free to explore what it might be like to work together on some of these different things. This is what I help men do specifically. Also work with some women in these areas as well. When it comes to these things, that's where the big release of the pressure comes from. Not always, not perfectly, but when we're looking at releasing what's underneath the surface that's driving things forward, releasing these things in an environment that is created for that is very powerful. I did it with a coach myself for many years to be able to release many, many things. He was just like a brother walking along the path with me. It was liberating to be seen in that way. When we start to let go of these things, a new version of us, right, to use the cliche, starts to emerge. We naturally become different. Our behavior changes as we bring more conscious attention and awareness to what it is that we're doing and what is driving us. And naturally, we start to live in this kind of lighter energy, you could say. It's not as heavy, it's not as force driven. You're now aligning yourself with the flow. When you feel lighter, more regulated, more calm in your body, you're aligning yourself with the flow because the body will give you the answers that you need. You'll start to feel the sense of what is the most advantageous move for you to make. What is the best decision, not from a logical, intellectual perspective only, but from a felt sense. And then that sensitivity becomes your superpower, becomes your secret weapon underneath the surface because you can tune in to what is right for you, not for anybody else. And then you can guide and lead from that place forward because you're tuned in to yourself, right? And of course, the knock on effect of that is you treat others differently, better, you have better relationships. All these things become more possible with this journey. So when we're aligning ourselves with the flow, we are tapping into this lighter energy. It's always available to us, but a lot of the time we got to release the old, the patterns underneath, the urgency and the fear. Once those get released, both through the mind, through the body, in whatever way that looks, different for everybody, we align ourselves with that flow and it becomes a natural part of us. Now, I'm not saying it's something that happens overnight, but it's a journey that starts to bring us towards this new direction. So, this is how I look at aligning with the flow. This is a personal journey I'm on myself as well. This is something I'm noticing across many men that I speak to. And it's beautiful. It's bringing us into this more calm, more powerful, more loving version of ourselves as well. Because when I say power, I mean power, but from the heart, the power to express yourself, the power to be fully yourself and to lead from that place with your heart center. That is what we're tapping into here. It's a new level of leadership. And the more that we lean into that, the more we unlock more of ourselves in the process as well. And it really is a beautiful journey. We're going to leave it there for today. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.